a producer emails me and 300 other producers because I can see he didn't BCC it. All the email addresses are there. That's another problem. And the subject line was exclusive samples. How are these exclusive if 300 others are getting them? We get those tweets all the time. We just have to shake our heads, I guess. What's going down? It's the Music Entrepreneur Club. My name is DJ Payne One. I'm joined by Dame Ritter and Aaron Knight. This is the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. We're live twice a week with our free music business mentorship program, Mondays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on beatstars.live. That's the website. How's everyone feeling this morning?
A little sluggish this week, but I'm good. How are you, Aaron?
I'm in the midst of a hard week, but I know that my perspective can affect how hard it affects me. So I'm saying I'm good. I'm dressing in bright colors and spending time in the sun this week. And, you know, it's going to work out.
Yeah, you're bathed in the solar glory right now.
I like that. Bathed in solar glory. Thanks.
So I hope this isn't too much personal business, but now we all collectively hate Kia because of Aaron's experience. So we don't need to get into the details, but how do you reverse a shout out to Kia like this?
F you, Kia. If you want to get this right, you better get in contact with me and replace the lemon that you sold me. F you, Kia.
There we
At
go.
Kia Motors, Kia USA, anybody affiliated with Kia, F you.
Yes. F you, Kia.
Did you actually shout them out at some point?
Multiple times on Twitter over the last 3 months, but especially recently, and on Instagram, nothing. F you, Kia.
All right, cool. Let's jump into today's topic. There was an article written by The Atlantic, basically talking about how dominant the old music is over new music in the streaming era. And more so as I guess from last year to this year, you know, people are just listening to older songs and less of the newer music. And, you know, I kind of expect that. Obviously, there's a shitload more old music than new music. But if the trend is continuing that less newer music is being streamed, listened to, just wanted to talk with you guys about, you know, just your reaction from that article, why we think that is. There's probably a number of reasons that this is happening. But what are your initial thoughts?
I feel like that article was extremely long for no reason. That's my first thought. He just I was like, what is your point? Like there was not a point being made. But when we got to the end of it, I don't know. I feel like it's very interesting. I feel like we kind of hit on this a couple weeks ago with the chick who's on the label who was saying that TikTok is creating this phenomena that artists aren't connecting with their fans in a very engaged way. It's like they like one song and then they move. So I really believe that that's part of it. But I also love that as it got deeper into the article, he exposed the interest of corporations and labels in buying these legacy catalogs and how they're trying to exploit the catalog. So they're actually pushing the songs to radio. They're pushing it out to TikTok. They're incentivizing their artists to use it as samples and things like that. So I don't know. I think it's a very interesting deep dive. I don't think the future of music is in jeopardy, but I think it is something that we should look at and think about, okay, so what are they trying to point us towards? What is the purpose of this? So I don't know. I thought it was fascinating. I think that, yes, COVID is a huge part of it because clubs aren't playing as new music. Less people are in their cars listening to radio. I know radio dropped for a while, but now it's back on the come up. So I'm not completely sure what the implications are, but I do believe that TikTok is a facet of that, but I also believe that consumed music is being consumed differently. So I think a lot of people are purchasing vinyls, which is something they talked about, but even vinyls for newer artists, or you're purchasing something where you're downloading and you're replaying it so the streams aren't getting recorded. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know what it means, but I don't believe that the future of music is in jeopardy.
Dame is music.
I definitely wouldn't go that far, but there are some reasons why this is happening. And streaming has given young people access to music that we didn't have access to when we were younger, right? Like if my dad liked the OJs or whoever, like unless I had his record, I couldn't play it, right? So now that we have streaming, I have a young cousin who was probably 13, 14 at the time. This was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And I said, yo, what are you listening to? He was like, Wu-Tang. I said, what? Like, who even introduced this to you? Right. But now they have access to it through streaming. So, yeah, and it's the same thing with shows, right? My stepdaughter likes The Office. And she watches it religiously because she has access to it. So there's that. And then I also think that there's just a ridiculous amount of competition now with all the music that's being released, that labels don't focus on songs for as long as they used to, right? So they don't really drive it home. It's kind of on to the next one. So you don't really market it enough to like enhance that attachment to the listeners. And then another thing, streaming, when people are listening to these songs, they're listening to the songs and may not even know who the artist is, as they have Spotify on in the background, right? So I think there's a number of reasons. No reason to be alarmed. This is just the evolution of music because we have streaming now. But it's a variety of factors. I think it's interesting to point out. But, I think for artists that are making music, you really want to have that connection with your audience. And I think there are a lot of independent artists that are doing that, because I think when people hear this, some people are going to be like, oh, yeah, because the quality of music sucks now. And there is a lot of bad music being made, but there definitely are a ridiculous amount of artists that still care about their craft, spend hours and hours making it, so I don't think it's a lack of like quality music. There might be a ridiculous amount of microwave music as well in there, but if you want quality music with dope artists, like it's out there. So I'm not just going to shit on all of today's artists and be like, hey, you guys need to step your game up because, a lot of people are doing that. So I think it's interesting. And I think when you hear information like this as an artist, you have to, receive it and figure out what that means for you and how you want to, interact and engage with your audience.
So I have questions as always. Is it that younger people are discovering older music? Is it that older consumers are now finally catching on to streaming? Was that the delay? Because that could partially be responsible for it. Also, does this trend repeat itself? Obviously we didn't have streaming 20 years ago, but did we notice an increase in the purchase of old music when that old music suddenly reaches a certain level and is regarded as a classic? Because I feel like this does happen. I mean, when you hit the 80s, suddenly there's a 60s revival. When you hit the 90s, suddenly there's a 70s revival. We're in the 2000s. Is there an 80s revival? Yeah. Is there a 90s revival? Yeah. So maybe that's part of it. I think it's also interesting because newer artists, and people will say there's no connection between the newer artists and their consumers. Some people will say that. I think they're absolutely crazy. Creedence Clearwater Revival was one of the bands whose music is now seeing more streams. John Fogerty's been dead for a long time. He has no connection to the newer generation, not in the way that somebody like NLE Chopper does, because he's always on social media being active and people are seeing A, B, and C about his life unfold right before their very eyes in real time. So I think newer artists are way more connected to their fans. Another thing I want to bring up is the whole legacy catalog thing with the labels. Now, I don't know everyone's contracts. I don't have access to these old contracts. These old contracts that labels are buying up, they're not revising to take streaming into account. They're just buying them up and retrofitting them, which means that puts the artist, the label at a great advantage to take all of the streaming money. So they have a vested interest in promoting their legacy catalogs because they're going to make way more money than they would from an artist who they signed last year, who's knowledgeable about streaming and who negotiated a better split, right? So I wonder if the labels are behind this and TikTok is behind this because they're all working together. Wouldn't that be ironic? Because I think a lot of people will look at this article and say, see, new music is trash. Every new artist is trash, this and that, when in fact, it's actually all of those evil forces that supposedly push this new music agenda who are behind this classics revival. It's fun. It's like the NFT thing. You know, you have so many people saying, these artists are selling their rights, this and that. And then an artist comes along and sells their rights as an NFT. And this is amazing. This is groundbreaking. And it's like, but you just said, so now we're seeing it with this, where they're like, new music is trash. New music is ephemeral. Old music is better. New music is ruining old music. Well, that narrative goes out the window too, because now it seems as though based on the sheer numbers, old music is ruining new music, right? And then they're also saying new music won't stand the test of time. And it's like, now you have to face some inconvenient inconsistencies in the actual trends. So I think it's interesting, but we need more information. I need more information to really say conclusively or beyond a lot of doubt what I think is at work here.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You know, I'm not sure. I mean, it does make sense, like you said, for labels to focus more on, you know, the older catalog. I'm not sure how they treat streaming. Like if you were in a contract, like I'm pretty positive they still have all the ridiculous deductions, whether it's breakage or just.
They do. That's what I hear from all the artists that I talked to that had. I talked to a couple of producers. I think Digga was one of them. Don't quote me on that. But he was talking about how, you know, he wants to take legal action to renegotiate those contracts because those contracts didn't account for any of that stuff. No sound exchange, no streaming, obviously, no YouTube, nothing. There are so many royalty streams, and the music business has changed so much since the 90s and early 2000s that these contracts are just being, you know, forced into the current musical landscape in a way that always benefits the label, because they're just going to say, oh, well, streams, well, we still own the master, so that's the majority of a stream. I'm going to bring that up time and time again because a lot of people don't understand that, and that's a big point. Wow. Mechanicals, streams, like, come on, none of it makes sense, but they're retrofitting it in ways that benefits them, but that isn't actually intuitive. A mechanical or breakage, you know, it just doesn't. Player pianos don't exist anymore. They're not pressing up vinyl and putting it on Spotify. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. What I would just tell artists, no matter what article that comes out, like general article that comes out, like there are so many different ways to set things up in the music industry, and it may not even apply to you, right? Like even if they say, you know, old music killing new music. Well, there are a shitload of artists that, you know, have their fan base, that go deep with their fan base and are killing it with streams, right? So, you know, or if they say artists only make money from touring. Yeah, some artists, but there are a lot of artists that have, you know, so many other revenue streams, you know, so that's why it's so important to really understand the business and really what's going on with independent artists, because, you know, people are getting creative and there's new revenue streams revealing themselves every day. So that's one of the reasons why we have this platform, so people can tune in and hear different stories so that they're not as discouraged as some of these articles might make you if you believe it applies to everyone.
I think too, it's worth noting that the older music is surpassing current radio music. That doesn't apply to most independent artists. They're trying to create this fear and urgency to change something. And it's really, they're exposing that their system is broken. This doesn't affect the independent music makers currently. Like, from articles that I've been reading lately, independent music artists are making more money worldwide than they ever have because of the internet. So, and because of things like TikTok, which are playing legacy music, but we're seeing people get signed literally 2 or 3 months after they drop a video, which is insane. I feel like there was a rise in that when Vine was out. You know, like Shawn Mendes was the first Vine artist, and then there was another couple called like We or Two or something like that happened for a moment, and then it died out. With TikTok, that trend just keeps taking off. So truth of the matter is, not to just completely disregard this conversation, but it doesn't apply to the indies. The labels are saying we can't make money off of our current radio artists, so we're going to push back catalogs that had egregious deals with dead artists, or we're buying the catalog from their family, and now we're going to push that out so that we can figure out how to make more money, because especially with newer artists, even they're getting more equitable deals. You know, like from my understanding, Lil Baby has a pretty equitable deal. The Migos have recently renegotiated their deal. If I'm just looking at the landscape of hip hop radio, it's residing in Atlanta, and there's been a renaissance of fixing contracts in Atlanta. Like, no, we're not going to stick with the bad contract. So what I really believe this is labels are more so exposing, or the industry is trying to expose something that's really just pointing back to them being shitheads, to be honest.
Right. What I, as an artist, what I would hear or take away from this, again, you know, I can't express it enough, is to having that connection with your fans, like really deepening that connection with your fans, and to really get better at your craft. Like if you're not good at making music, as things evolve, as times evolve, like you're not going to be able to evolve because you don't know how. Like maybe you got lucky with a song that resonated with people, but you know, or as a producer, maybe you got lucky because, you know, you were on Fruity Loops and you did something and you were like, man, I made a hot beat. And then somebody comes to you and is like, okay, do it again, but I need a little bit of a soul influence. I don't know. I just was punching, you know, keys and I did the first one. So you should always want to get better at your craft because it helps you evolve with the times, in my opinion. So that you can't just throw out this, and I'm not saying that either of you said this, but, you know, don't just throw out this article. You know, there's a lot to learn from it, you know, hopefully apply to, you know, your journey.
I'm encouraged by it because I think, you know, if we're going to accept it at face value as a guide for our own careers, then I'm looking at it as reassurance for me, where it's like, I'm not trying to chase the current sound as a beat maker. And a lot of people aren't. I'm not saying I don't like the current sound, and I'm not saying I don't try to make current sounding music, but that's not my core sound. So to me, that's encouraging, you know, and I think sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you a question. Do you think it encourages sampling? I know sampling's a pain in the ass to get things cleared, but since older music is resonating and young people seem to find older music, does it make you want to sample?
I always want to sample, but I'm a sample creator too, and I'm not making current sounding samples. I'm trying to make stuff that sounds aged. So again, that's encouraging to me. So I'm happy with it. I'm critical of the article, obviously, but I'm critical of and skeptical of, you know, anything that makes these kinds of bold assertions. So I don't want to say that I am throwing out the article. Not that you said that that's what Aaron and I said, but I am encouraged by it to an extent. To that extent, I think that, and I'm glad you brought it up because that was something that did strike a chord with me, where I do feel like if that is the case, and it goes against another narrative that sampling is dead and this and that, and there are companies like Tracklib that monitor whose albums contain samples or how much current music is based on sampling. And yeah, it's not dead at all. It's far from dead. And I think this just speaks to that. And it's not going to disappear anytime soon. If anything, if you have a new generation discovering that old music, it's brand new to them. They're going to want to sample it. They might not even realize that it's old, to be honest with you, if they're just on these platforms streaming stuff and it's all musical discovery for them.
Before we move on to the next one, let me move out of the sun. Hold on.
I'm going to play the Jeopardy music. We'll figure this out.
Well, during this break, we might as well promote our live MEC sessions. If you're not familiar, in addition to this podcast, every Monday and Thursday, we have live sessions with really dope guests that know a lot of cool stuff, way more stuff than us at times. So you want to tap in. They're free. 12 p.m. Pacific on Mondays and Thursdays. Just go to beatstars.live. We got some really dope guests coming up. Payne, who do you know your next couple of guests?
Yeah, I have Chew coming on again. I have Repstar and Wizard MCE. I have Decap coming on. I have Memory Part 2. He's going to come on with Cloud9.
So if you're a producer, you really want to tap into the Thursday sessions because Payne holds those down and he always has a dope guest and they talk about everything producer related. Mondays, Aaron and I host those sessions and it's for everyone. It's for managers, artists, producers. We talk about a lot of different things. So make sure you tap in Mondays and Thursdays, 12 p.m. beatstars.live.
So speaking of producers, remember when we had Tony Remedy on? That was an episode that had some viral moments because she made the claim that producers are selling fake exclusive beats, and we had a whole conversation about.
Well, it's true though, right?
Well, I'm not making a value judgment. I'm just reminding everybody because that was a big conversation, and a lot of people had reactions to it.
Well, you said it like.
No, I just have to put quotes around fake exclusives because that's not a term that's a term that she coined.
Right. Well,
so fake exclusive to her was basically a producer selling exclusives without telling her that those beats have been used by others.
I would agree that that's a fake exclusive.
It's something we can come up with a word for it, but either way, it's not something that it's something that should be disclosed to the artist, in my opinion. But producers do have a problem with this word exclusive, and I'll tell you about something that happened to me recently. I had a producer send me and 300 other producers an email with the subject line "exclusive samples." Also, on the same day, I saw a KE ad where he said, "Today I'm giving out 20 exclusive beats for free," doing all his hand gestures because that's what he does in his ads. Does anyone believe KE is giving away 20 exclusive beats? Because that ad is being seen by thousands of people. If 1,000 people see it, that means he has to give away 20,000 beats because they're exclusive. Every single person has to get their own exclusive beat. If a dude was dating 20 other women, Aaron, would you consider him in an exclusive relationship?
No, not at all.
I think we need to bring Aaron up to speed on your boy KE. So KE has been a recurring topic on this podcast. Actually, not in a while though. We haven't.
When I first started, he was. When I first started, Payne was on a KE path, storm path. But yeah, I'm familiar with KE because I. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, I used to be a fan of him, but I will agree. All of the spammy ads just made me say ill, and I haven't thought about him since.
We were all a fan of KE's. Seriously, we were, and that's why it's sad to see. But this isn't about KE. This is about this whole exclusivity concept. And then also, I wanted to go from there into another conversation because remember when we were talking about the T-Pain fiasco where he offered a job and said, please only email me these specific items that match these specific criteria. And people were just like, fuck it, I'm emailing him whatever I want. And we talked about how that can burn a bridge. How many people watching this right now think sending an annoying or spammy email is really no big deal? Probably most. So when someone like T-Pain goes on and says, man, I can't stand you sending me all these emails, or if I say it as a much less popular artist, everyone's like, oh, shut up, it's not a big deal, it's just an email. So let's go back to this whole 300. So a producer emails me and 300 other producers because I can see he didn't BCC it. All the email addresses are there. That's another problem. And the subject line was exclusive samples. We know they're not exclusive. I replied, how are these exclusive if 300 others are getting them? So then every producer on the list starts chiming in, laughing, and it's this big joke. The issue is, not only did our emails get stolen because he didn't use BCC, he also included a bunch of bigger producers and really messed up our inboxes in the sense that once you reply, you're replying to everybody because it wasn't BCC'd, and all of those defunct email addresses are now creating bounce backs. So I have, up until like yesterday, and this was 2 weeks in the making, I was getting about 50 emails at bounce back emails a day. And there was another producer, I'm not going to say his name, but big producer, who, Post Malone, and big credits to his name. He reached out to me through DMs and was like, my email was so full already and I was having trouble with it. And this series of emails just destroyed it. Now I can't even check my email. So people will say it's not a big deal. It really can be. It's enough to make any of us never want to work with this guy again. One, he looks like a jerk and at best a liar who messed up our inboxes. And at worst, he looks like somebody who really was a destructive force. And all of this carelessness with outreach that people are doing because they're desperate for a reply or they think an opportunity will lead, to something big. It's a dead end, and it's really hard to recover from because everyone remembers a negative experience. Even if it's a small negative experience, they remember it. And
my bad.
All I'm going to say is the good news is it's really easy not to mess up this bad. It's really easy. Literally, you just have to think before you reach out to one person or 300 in this case.
But I mean, KE is not a new producer. Like, do you feel like this has possibly worked for him? Yeah, he might have let's say he pissed off 285 people, but 15 people unless something is wrong with him.
Well, this isn't KE. Sorry, I didn't.
This isn't KE.
This is a different producer. This producer sent out I'm not saying this producer's name. This producer sent an email saying 300 to 300 of us saying exclusive samples. It's a tactic that KE used. The KE comparison was just that across the producer community, we have the fake exclusive beats, we have KE pushing the fake exclusivity narrative, and then we have other producers doing the same thing, including this guy. But to answer your question, I've said time and time again, I think KE is probably making a lot of money. And I know we don't like talking about scammers, but I think scammers are winning. I mean, there's a reason why there are so many scams.
We can't lump him in with a scammer, though. I think that's like, we can't call KE a scammer. I think he is I
didn't call KE a scammer, for the record. I said scammers are winning.
I know, but you talked about KE and then quickly segued into scammers are winning. I don't want to say that KE is a scammer. I haven't had that experience. I think I think his sales tactics are super cringe, personally. And I do think it is fraudulent to represent that you're giving exclusive beats. But lumping him in with the internet scammers, I think, is a bit of a stretch. But I see what you're saying. I think with this mass email thing, my question is, how do you not understand that this is a bad practice, especially if you have gotten to the point that you actually have some high profile producers' emails? Like, do you want to know a quick way to ruin a relationship is to treat it not to the esteem that it should be? You know, like that's the moment that you invalidate the relationship and treat it carelessly is the moment that your opportunity walks out the door. I'm just confused because I get the same type of emails. I don't understand how it is so hard to understand that mass emails, even if it's not anything in the music industry, like I have a lot of aunties on WhatsApp and they'll send those crazy email threads or text threads. And it's like, I had to delete my WhatsApp because of my aunties. Do you know what I'm saying?
I got the same.
So like, even on Facebook, my aunties will put me in these Facebook groups and I'm like, auntie, please leave me alone. But so like every kid, everybody of the internet understands that that's mad annoying. So I'm so confused why there's people under the age of 45 actually doing this as a practice that they're looking to obtain business from. I don't get it. I need somebody to comment why they've done it. If you have done it, please explain, because I don't understand how you have to be taught this.
And I swear the explanation is just, it's not a big deal. I'm trying to get mine however I can. This is how everyone gets on. It's always these weird statements that aren't true. They're not grounded in any kind of reality. No one can actually cite any kind of information that proves.
If you want attention, you can go shit in public, but nobody shits in public. Nobody had to teach you that. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what I feel like this is. You're shitting in public.
But I think a lot of it is just, desperation, right? Like nothing else is working for me. So fuck it. Like, let me just try this. It's something I can do. It's free. Let me give it a shot. But I think hopefully people listening to this, it's important, obviously, to build solid relationships. And the great thing is like, if you do mess up a few relationships, there's a shitload of people in this industry. Not that I'm saying that you should go around messing up relationships, because people talk and the industry gets smaller as you become more successful. But I don't think something like this is like, if you do it as a young producer, like, oh, you're not going to be able to win in the music industry. If somebody convinced you to send an email, or you just thought it would be a good idea because you got, you bought some, emails from some, person sending you their contact list. I just don't think this one thing is going to, because if you go on to do well, like if you start doing well, and somebody remembers your email, they're not gonna, if you have enough value, they're not gonna not work with you because you sent out a blast email, right?
Yeah, they're gonna be like, I remember when you were so annoying and you were sending out these mass emails. Now you made it. I get you, but I still feel like the shit is.
But that's, I don't think that's the point.
Send me beats. Producers send me beats. I'm like, bro, I don't rap. And I don't manage artists like that. So what do you want me to do with these beats?
Put me on. Give me an opportunity. Two things. One, what you said, Dame, was it's desperation because people will say, well, I've tried everything else, so I'm just going to try this. No one's ever tried everything else. Even a competent, well-researched musician, but it goes back to desperation. A million times have I heard someone say, I'm out of ideas, I've tried everything else. And I'll list like the most common, like, hey, have you built an email list? Huh? Hey, have you?
No, what they're saying is they've tried everything else but the work that's required. Because that, like, the work that's required is tough. Like, it's like, God damn, I got to do this. Like, let me just try this other stuff. So maybe I don't have to do it. Like, just do
I've DM'd 50 people and I've posted my beats 6 times and it hasn't worked. This is my last resort.
So let me just email all 50 at the same time. Like, people don't know how important it is to really address the people you're talking to and personalize it. right? Like I get emails all the time, and that's the clear, like how you address me is the clear indication of whether or not I should delete the email or not. Like if you just say hello or some shit, like I know this email was sent not only to Jive Minks, but like every other comedian on the YouTube platform. So how you address the email lets me know immediately that your email is getting trashed. If it's just basic, because I know it's a copy paste job. So I know
I can't come to terms with how socially inept these emails are. Like do these people behave this way in person? I mean, do they?
It's just lazy. It's just laziness, but they don't understand how if you do have something of value, like how much more impactful it will be if you do address this person and make it clear that you know who this person is, you know what they do, and how what you can do can add value to what they're doing, right? It takes more time. Because I remember when I got, back in the blog era, when we first started, that was the first exercise I did. And I even did what I just said. I personalized. I still didn't get a response. But still, like I would get the emails of all the blogs, had it in my little spreadsheet. And I would, I wouldn't craft a brand new email, but I would definitely change things up to make them aware that I'm talking to them. Right. So, that was still a fruitless exercise.
Okay, I have to share something with you. So recently, and I know you guys congratulated me. I found out that from a royalty statement that I had a beat on the Jimmy Fallon show. So I posted about. See, thank you, and I appreciate when people congratulate me for doing something that I think is cool. Most people did, but let me just play you a voice memo that someone sent me in response to me posting that. Just listen. This is totally real. Listen.
Hey, I made beats. I'm trying to find out how the hell I get my shit on there. Feel me?
Sounds like you should work with him. I would work with him.
This isn't even a text-based correspondence anymore. This is him.
Get that? Where
on Instagram, and I blocked him instantly because it's like, who in their right mind thinks I may be shit? How the fuck I get my shit? How do you think that that's the way to, one, congratulate someone, two, build a bridge, and three, get an opportunity? I'm at a loss for words because it's just so far extreme on the socially inept spectrum, where it's like, here's a person that knows how to interact with people. Here's a person that's socially awkward. Let's go 80 million miles all the way to the right to a person who can't even function among other humans. And that's where this voice memo places on the spectrum. What the hell?
You should sample that voice memo.
Yo, I was gonna say that needs to be your new tag. 1000%. That shit is amazing. You gotta use that. You have to.
And use it. Not because that's how, if I was a producer, and I've given this advice before, I would, think, obviously I'm in the hoop and I like dogs too. I watch a lot of dog videos. Like my fiance sends me dog videos. We send them back and forth. But like, so whatever your lane is, if I was a producer, I would be sampling dogs, right? Sample dogs, because there's a shitload of dog pages, right? And I would say, hey, I see you have this page. I love your page. I've been following it for a year. This was my favorite video. I actually took a sample from this dog barking and made a beat. If you ever want to use some of my beats in your dog videos, feel free. It would be amazing, right?
Can I say something? That's what Tantu did, and he actually got he was sampling potato chips and he got a deal with Lay's. So this is real. It sounds weird maybe to some people as Dame's saying it, but it's real.
And here's another great idea. If you're in a hoop or sports, whatever the best highlight of the day of the week was, sample that sound bite, whoever it was, and put that in a beat, put that to a House of Highlights clip or Sideline Sources or ESPN. If you kept doing that, I know that House of Highlights would hit you up Or
that's how one of my artists really blew on SoundCloud. He did this whole 45 campaign with Michael Jordan. He was taking sound bites from when Jordan came back and adding them to his project. And then we were just like taking clips of Baller Alert videos. And soon Baller Alert, or is it Baller Alert? Ball is Life. Ball is Life started reposting his beats to their videos. And then we started getting a ton of people, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is real life. I feel like you just came up with something. I feel like for me, if somebody were to send me like loops of Black people dancing or doing any type of expression of joy and they had their beats on there, I would be like, this person is a genius. I would at least be reposting to my community. I just think it's not that hard to be creative. You know what I'm saying? But if you're calling yourself a creative and all you can do is create the final product, you're not actually creative. You know how to create one solution, and that's not very creative to me.
Right.
No, and that's why I'm sure, and it bothers Dame, I know, but I'm sure it bothers you, Aaron, when you hear producers or rappers or singers or whoever saying, I'm the creative, they're the manager. And it's like, yeah, but the management and the team of people around you that are actually finding an artful and effective way of, showcasing you and promoting you as an artist, what are they doing? If you were the creative, you would be doing this and you wouldn't need them.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm a creative, and I feel like any good manager has to have, creative ideas. To cut through the clutter these days. But there's so many, producers, you just have to step out, think outside of the box. Because there are so many lanes that aren't being filled or that aren't created yet. And I'm not going to sit here to say that it's easy. It's going to take some work, but do something a little different. Hopefully through listening to our podcast and through listening or attending our sessions, people start to see how many different ways people are pursuing music, so they can get a little bit more creative. Cookie cutter approaches, everybody's doing, like, just so competitive. You got to be a little different. So I got a lot of ideas.
Or send the voice notes. I feel like the voice notes add an extra layer of weirdness. And I'm noticing that a lot of people are opting to use voice notes rather than text. I understand.
I don't like it. I don't like it either.
So lazy. You're getting blocked immediately if you send me a voice note and I don't follow you. Blocked.
Yeah, there's some people that like Big Jaw likes voice notes. I don't mind it. It's just it's not as weird as just FaceTiming me without giving me a heads up. I still don't like that. Like, don't just.
No, that's weirder. That's way weirder, because I could be showering. Don't do it.
Like, don't. I hope that doesn't become just more normal, where it's just like, here's the FaceTime. I feel like a little bit offended when somebody FaceTimes me just out the blue and it's not necessary. Like, don't.
I feel like that's a Gen Z thing, because like a ton of people, like younger people, do it to me, and I'm like, do you need something?
And I even feel like us wanting to text.
To look at your face.
Like, I guess we're millennial. I'm assuming you're a millennial, right, Aaron? Yeah. So
say I'm old. Damn.
I'm in that category too. I'm just saying.
Oh, I thought you were saying older than a millennial. Yeah, no.
No, you are a millennial. Yeah. No, so for us, it's we're like the texting generation. Don't call me, send me a text. And now it's like the Creedence Clearwater thing. Like, young people are listening to old rock music now, and now they're getting back into phone calls and verbal communication, but they're doing it through voice notes and FaceTime and everything.
But they won't look at you on FaceTime. That's the thing. Do you ever notice that? Yeah, people FaceTime you and won't even look at you. It's like, bro, what are we even doing?
Yeah, all the time when Sophia's cleaning the kitchen, like, the phone will just be, and I'll walk in there and I'll just see her, like, her friend sees me. I'm like, what is going? Like, she just has her phone propped up, like, they're not really looking at each other. They're not really looking at each other. They're still just talking. Young people are still weird in person. I don't care what they do on their phones. They're still weird in person.
No, they are, and it feels weird. It feels weird as an adult, like when there was a teenager living here and I'd walk into a room she was in, Like, why am I looking at another like 13-year-old girl, and why is she seeing me wash dishes? I don't know this person.
and there's a couple of well, actually her little cousins, they come and they don't, like, when you don't address the people that live in the house like that's weird to me too. Like, you don't just sleep at my house and you literally have to walk right by me because I'm in the living room and you're still not saying anything. Like, I'll be calling all her little friends out. Like, so anyway.
Oh, you become
I'm
me
here.
and Uncle
I'm
Dan.
a human. You should speak.
Yeah, that's a separate podcast.
Strict Auntie Aaron and mean Uncle Dame.
Listen, I'm from the South. You better speak if you see me.
Right. And it's my house too. And you sleeping here eating my food? Hold up.
People from the South are very polite, and when it comes to social graces, I would say they're advanced beyond the rest of us in the country.
Is that still a thing? Does it still? I mean, when I was spent time in Atlanta, so I did a summer or half a summer in Atlanta in 2006, and it definitely a little bit more, welcoming. People were a little bit more respectful, but it wasn't as much as I thought it was going to be, like, just based off the stereotypes.
Because there's so many transplants, and you probably got to go to an area that is more like ATLians. But for sure, if you walk past me on the street and don't give me at least a head nod, I take that personally. It's like, do you know how rare it is to be a human in existence right now? Like, it's a 1 in a trillion chance of us being born. And there's 7 billion people on the face of the planet. We happen to be walking down the same street in Atlanta right now. Acknowledge my existence. Come on. It's magic that we're both here.
We're losing. Unfortunately, I feel like the head nod is slipping. There's just a lot of people that are disconnected that don't really feel like that's a thing or don't really know what it is.
Right. So, and that's why I do it. It's like the unspoken, but yeah, in Atlanta, I think that's why the city thrives, is because we're so used to communicating. Most other cities is this like, oh, well, I got to check. Like, Atlanta is like, no, what's up? We doing this? Are we not? Okay, what time? And I think that's why we thrive. But yeah, transplants, a lot of people have complained to me that, like, just because I walk past you, don't mean I need to speak. I'm like, that's why you moved from your other city. It was not working. You come here, you need to assimilate into our culture. Yeah. Don't try to tell us what we do here. Like, you need to figure it out.
And I'm in the Midwest, so I don't even want to get into it. We're angry up here. Not me, but I don't leave the house.
It's because it's cold.
There are a bunch of reasons. I think the loss of industry in like the 70s, when there was just economic devastation that we haven't yet recovered from, swept the region, and we're getting too serious. It's a little dark. I want to end on a positive note. So Atlanta, the South in general, there are some friendly, good people down there, and we appreciate them. I like going there for that reason.
Atlanta's on my short list of places to move at some point still.
You would love it, Dame, because the cost of living here is getting high, but it's so much lower than where you're at. You would love it.
Yeah,
but Dame's in California, so
as soon as Big Ja and Minx get more established in like Hollywood, I'm out. I think so. Anyway, we can wrap it up.
All right. Once again, appreciate you tuning in. We're live twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to get updated every time we go live, which you absolutely should, just text MEC to the number
844-206-7800. You'll get an alert right before we go live. We make it easy. So tap into our live sessions. We always have some dope sessions coming up. Gems drop in every single session. So tap in with us, beatstars.live.
Appreciate you tuning in. Peace.
Peace.